I assumed that when I brought Brandon Gaston onto the show, we were going to have a conversation around wardrobe. What surprised me was how deep we went on branding and his expertise in that area, and how brand has a lot more to do with the confidence with which you show up in the world, which we all know has so much of an impact on the results that you get. This episode is going to blow your mind. Brandon is a branding expert. I can't wait for you to hear the episode, and I can't wait for you to subscribe to the show so you don't miss any more content. That's my love language. That's what I'm asking you today. Subscribe to the show if you haven't already, and enjoy this episode. Welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Justin Stoddart. Today, I'm going to be bringing to you somebody who's going to help you maximize the value of your personal brand. He's a personal branding expert. I'm going to get to him here in just a second. I want to remind you that if you find value in this, I would ask that you subscribe and share it with somebody else. The value that's going to be pouring out of this episode today with Brandon Gaston is going to be unreal. It's going to change the way you look at the way you show up in the world. And I don't want you or the people around you that you love and care about to miss this. So please go subscribe, give him some love. Let's jump into kind of who this individual is that I've promised, right? His name is Brandon Gaston. He's with Unboxable. He's probably the best dressed man in the Northwest. I mean that. He's some of his accolades. In fact, if you see this guy, you'll be like, dang, I wish I could look like that. In fact, my wife met this guy, no joke, is like he looks really good. Like, you need to up your game. And he's a 2 times wardrobe stylist of the year. Okay, here's some stats I'm pulling from here. He's a regular contributor on TV, right? And you got to look pretty good to be on TV over 50 times, right? And a former creative director for Seattle Fashion Week. So for those of you that don't know Brandon Gaston, I'm super excited to bring him to you today so that we can talk all about personal branding. Brandon, thanks for coming on the show today, man. Super pleasure.
Man, thank you. Yeah, no, I love the introduction. It's always interesting. Like I said, when I'm doing these interviews and someone introduces me, it's like, oh, I guess I am that person, right? It sounds amazing. It sounds better than what you think of yourself sometimes, for sure.
I'll tell you, man. I think we met Diana McCready. One of my favorite people and clients connected us. We were at a big event.
Yeah.
And I just had quick and immediate admiration for you. Not just the way that you showed up in the world, but the way that it wasn't just your dress. Keep in mind, super well-dressed man, but just the way you carry yourself. And I began, and now as I follow you on social media and I've interacted with you a number of other times, branding to you is way deeper than just maybe what's on your business card. It's way deeper than, your logo on your website. It's way deeper than even the clothes that you wear. I'm excited to dig into this topic and really kind of get your perspective on kind of what personal brand means to you and why it's so important.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great that you picked up on that. For me, branding is everything, right? It's every single touch point. When you think of marketing or branding, you're literally thinking of every single touch point and how you connect with someone, right? For me, I've always been into fashion. So fashion was an easy way for me to get into what I considered wardrobe branding. I didn't ever consider myself a stylist or even really an image consultant. It was all about branding. I knew that was the first way because that's the first impression we have, right? Even on a digital or social media, you see the visuals first. But for me, it's everything. And also I realized that everyone has felt at some point when they have on an outfit, whether it's a wedding day or prom, that they can relate to, where they're like, oh my gosh, I feel amazing. Right? Yeah. And your wardrobe is one of those things you have to get dressed every single day. And so I'm like, why not be intentional about how you feel every single day to put yourself in a position for success? And it's not only does it, people feel that energy, right? When you feel confident, because confidence is everything. When you feel confident by what you have on, you know what you're talking about. People feel that. And then, so it's like a twofold. It's like 2 in 1. The people that you come in contact with, recognize it. And then you feel amazing by yourself. And it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So for me, it's like, it starts with, your wardrobe, but it is the business card. It is, the catchphrase or the captions on your social media, but it's more than that. It's really everything. Everything counts. And I feel like when you are doing wardrobe or doing a photo shoot, you realize every single thing matters. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I look at it. I look like everything matters, either adding to your brand or taking away from it. And the more conscious you can be aware of that, the more you can make it impactful.
Let's talk about this a little bit. I remember you've actually taken me back in time to when I was a kid. My dad would say, when you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you look good. And what you're telling me there is reminding me of these lessons from my dad. And it's so true. What and I think is so deep and profound here, that's going even way deeper than I thought we would go, which is again, our audience is primarily real estate industry professionals, right?
Absolutely.
And I find that those that show up and do the best work, do the most work, are those that actually, as you said, have the confidence. This isn't as much, or this isn't only about how other people perceive you. It's how you perceive yourself. And from
Absolutely.
that confidence, you then have, right, the confidence to go show up and talk to people and to negotiate strongly. And to, I mean, there's so many things that I'm seeing now, all this correlation.
Yeah.
It's I didn't recognize all the connection to, but you're exactly right. When you're insecure about the way you look, about the way you're showing up, you're in your own head as opposed to outwardly giving.
Exactly. I mean, that's spot on. I mean, really how people receive you is like the icing on the cake, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I tell people all the time, like, I love clothes. I love clothes. Like I've worn best dress in like junior high, high school. Like I love clothes, but that's not the reason why I got into it. I realized like, I've been in, speaking of that, I've been at shopping with clients where they see themselves in a way where instantly their whole body language changes, right? They stand taller, they move differently, they look at themselves, and it's like, okay, again, going back to what I said earlier, we have to get dressed as a professional, and someone in real estate, especially even more so because it is so design focused, right? It's all about aesthetics. It's like, okay, we need to, stage this house because it's going to get a bigger price point. We need to paint this wall. We need to make it so people can feel warm and fuzzy when they walk to the house. All that is aesthetics. And so you would think that would translate to real estate even more so, the professionals, because they are selling aesthetics. They need to be cognizant of that within themselves, because I tell people all the time, like, realtors, you want your clients to stage the house, you need to stage yourself for success.
Powerful, man. What a powerful realization that everybody needs to have, right? Is that you are a walking billboard of the work that you do, right? The first impression
Absolutely.
that people have, I've even thought this, like when you see somebody's car, how do they take care of their car, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it clean? Is it well kept on the inside? That's an indication of
Absolutely.
how they're going to treat other things. And kind of what I hear you saying is taking that same principle and applying it to how real estate agents show up. People are getting an immediate or making an immediate decision about who this person is and how they're going to show up in the world, in their world, and selling their house, right? Marketing their house.
Without question. I mean, we all do it. You know what I mean? Like I just posted the other day, like we all judge, you know what I'm saying? And it's not even on a conscious level, it's subconscious, right? But there's very few people that are going to be like, oh my gosh, unless it's just so out of the norm, we're going to be like, oh, that he has something on his shirt or whatever, or that dress is too tight or too big or whatever. Unless you're in it, you aren't consciously thinking it, but they're in fact thinking it, right? So I feel like if you have the opportunity to make a first impression, why not give yourself the greatest opportunity? Because the buyer's already made a decision if you're going to sell their home or not. Now you just need to not mess up. I tell clients, like, my job is to get you in the door. You just don't need to mess it up. Like, I'm going to get you the opportunity. If you show up and you know what you're talking about, and then when you go back to you having that confidence that you need, more likely it's gonna work out in a positive in your favor. And then, being in the Northwest, it's like, it's such a great opportunity because no one dresses up. So it's like even more of an impact than if we were in Chicago or New York or someplace where they're known, where their standards are already like a lot higher.
Yeah. One of my mentors, Trevor Hammond, is a friend of the show. He said, people are not buying a product or a service. They're buying your confidence to solve their problem. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. They're buying your confidence to solve your problem. So if you're kind of like, yeah, I think we can get this done. People are like, ew, I can't put money on that. Like, I'm not sure. But if they're sensing that you're super confident, I know for me, when I am hiring somebody for something and they come in and they're like, yes, we can do that. Yep. I'm like, this insecurity, this concern that I have in this work, I'm sensing from you that you've got what it takes to solve that problem. So I'm going to give you money so you go solve that problem, right?
Without question.
And this whole concept of what you're teaching us now about the depth of personal brand is you're raising your game to be able to have more confidence, to have people willing to trade you money for that confidence.
Yeah. What is it? I think you might have him as a guest. I think Grant Cardone says like they always say under promise and over deliver, but I think he says over promise and over deliver, right? Yeah. And so it's like, yeah, I'm gonna show up in confidence. I'm gonna tell you I can do everything, and then on top of that, I'm gonna exceed those expectations still. And that's a huge separator in the marketplace when you're over promising and over delivering. Like very people would be willing to put themselves out there like that.
Yeah, it really takes some intentionality, right? Because I think we all show up with a certain level of confidence anyway. Mm-hmm. And so what I hear you say is that you have the ability to move that needle for people, right? They might show up. You might have some people that are already super confident, There's some people that are kind of so and some that are kind of lacking in confidence. Wherever they're at, you can move that, right?
Absolutely.
Let's talk about how to align your brand with your audience, right? Everybody's audience is a little bit different. Talk to us a little bit about kind of being sure that your brand is consistent with your audience.
Well, I think it really is. I think we're going to say intentional a lot, right? I think obviously when you're thinking about your brand or your audience, you need to have clarity on who your audience is, right? A lot of times when someone starts seeing what any profession, they're like, I just want to be everything to everyone. And like that doesn't work, right? There's too much noise in the marketplace. There's too many different variables. Like you really need to discern who your target audience is. I think sometimes you can do it proactively where you can actually think of, well, who do I want to align with? And then from there, peel back those layers, almost like reverse engineer it. Like, what does that look like? I know this being a real estate show, I think like Josh Altman, he said one time, like, do I look like I can buy the house I'm selling, right? So there's that aspect too. Like, so understanding who your audience, who you want it to be, and then how can you get aligned that from a reverse engineering standpoint. There's also the aspect of just being authentic, right? That's like the differentiator in the marketplace. Like the more you can lean into who you are, I feel like if you're a tremendously authentic, your tribe will find you. Right? I feel like you find people on the edges. So the more authentic you are, the people that are going to align with you are going to align with you. And then you just need to be aware of, okay, who am I connecting with? Like, what do I want to do? And really peel back, like, what am I passionate about? And then from there, like I said, a lot of it's just being clarity and then reverse engineering and putting two and two together.
What have you found when people are trying to really identify who that audience is? And I'll kind of preface it with this. I had some of the best mentoring I got around kind of this topic was on creating kind of an avatar, right, of the ideal customer.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of tips and insight when people are like, yeah, my ideal audience is people that want to sell a home or people that want to buy a home, right? That's not specific enough, right? You're not really speaking to anybody when you're trying to speak to everybody. What's some tips and ideas for people? Because if they're trying to, again, align their brand with their audience, if their audience is so broad, like that's not going to work, right? How do people narrow that down?
How do you narrow it? Yeah. So when I do branding work with clients now, that's actually one of the first things we do, right? We actually start with their purpose and their legacy, right? I feel like that really is where it starts because that's where the authenticity comes in. And that's where you really are starting to do the things you love. I think from there, we narrow down their scope. We do general demographics and psychographics. Like, okay, I want to do, this type of home sales. I want to work with these type of sellers. And those are really the basics. You know what I mean? Like they feel this way, they look this way, whatever. But then I actually have them create an avatar story based upon, again, their legacy and who they want to work with. And that kind of ties into not just the transaction amount, but why do you want to work with this individual? Right? Are they going to be a referral source? Do they give you warm and fuzzy for a specific reason? And then as another layer, once I identified who your target audience is, which is more specific, because the avatar story, people don't know, like you're saying their name, where they're coming from, how they found you, like you're laying out the perfect sale. And then from there, I actually have people do a SWOT analysis, which people do that for business. But I have you actually do a SWOT analysis on your target demographic. So where can I recognize within the people I'm trying to target? What are my strengths and weaknesses? What are my opportunities and what are my threats? So that even makes it even more specific as, okay, hey, I'm narrowing it down from my focus. I'm aligning my legacy to my target audience. And then I'll figure out who that perfect customer is. And then I'm now going to see where I'm strong and weak at. And so I can then highlight those aspects or attributes I have that are strengths. I can make it for those weaknesses and really just be really specific with who I'm trying to target, how I'm trying to align with them, etc. For all the way from like networking to branding, and that we could talk about that all day. But I think the main thing is I do have my customers do an avatar story, and I think doing a SWOT analysis on your target customer is a unique aspect that most people don't think about, but it really allows you to align and be very, very critical and specific of how you're trying to target those people.
Man, I love that. Really kind of getting in their shoes, right? This is going to sound crass at first, but bear with me. Darren Hardy, who I love listening to, he said the most important thing you can do is to get in bed with your customer. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. He's like, no, wait, let me explain here. That's not what I mean. His comment was that at night before people go to sleep, typically their biggest concerns run through their head, right? And it's instead of just being in their shoes, like what's actually keeping them awake at night? Yeah. And if you can identify what that is, now you're relevant. Right? Absolutely. Now you can actually solve problems that they actually care about. And what I hear you saying is part of this kind of avatar work through this SWOT analysis. For those that don't know, I think probably everybody does, but a SWOT analysis is identifying your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? That's an acronym for SWOT. And so going and really doing a SWOT analysis for them, if I'm understanding correctly, So
When,
that then,
actually, I have you do it on yourself to how to
okay,
connect to that customer. So
interesting.
I actually have you say, okay, I want to work with Susie or Bill or whoever.
Mhm.
And then being aware enough to be like, okay, so if I want to align and identify with that particular customer, what strengths do I have that would allow me to navigate that, right? Because again, when you go to the avatar store, you understand all these different attributes of that particular customer. What am I good at that makes sense for me to work with them?
Right.
Like, where am I weak at? And then sometimes it identifies that who you're targeting is not the right person. So
Mhm.
it's very telling on if you actually have the right avatar or not, or if you need to actually up your game, dress better, network better, expand your reach. You know what I mean? Like, it tells, are you actually focusing on the right individual or the wrong individual? So that's why I actually have you do it on yourself. It's very introspective.
Super powerful, Brandon. Because again, I hear so much intentionality in what you're talking about, right? Some people will be like, okay, I need to go shopping. I need to get some clothes, or I need to change my logo. But back
Yeah.
up, right? Is what I hear you saying is before you start just spending money thinking that you're solving a problem, really identify like what are the needs and concerns and strengths, weaknesses of your client, and then begin to do the things that actually help you show up in that person's life as helpful, right?
Exactly, exactly. Yes, it's all about intentionality. It's really like I said, and then the reason why I start with purpose is because you're doing the stuff you love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not just about the dollar, but it really is connecting all those dots. And it's like, I'm like, how do you? Well, I think like what they say, goal setting to the now, right? That Keller Williams book.
Yeah.
But how do you actually show up? How do you get your legacy on your to-do list? And that's kind of what I have them do when I start with legacy and I go through all these things to be intentional. It's like, okay, so on a daily basis, I'm doing this because it aligns with what I want to do long term and who I want to become.
Man, there are so many golden nuggets you're dropping on us, man. I'm just so appreciative of everything you've shared so far. Let's go to this last topic, best practices for creating content. Let me preface
Yeah.
this: if you're not currently following Brandon Gaston on social media, you're missing out. I've actually learned from a recent guest of mine, Shannon Gillette, who's fantastic. She talked about the importance of social media being a TV show, your TV show,
Mm-hmm.
not a commercial for your business, right?
Yeah.
And she talked about this that was difficult for me because I don't love this part of it. She said of you having pictures of yourself and video of yourself. Now, of course, this kind of video is super comfortable for me, but having pictures of myself sitting was always a little uncomfortable. Like I admire it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I see you do it, I see other people
Yeah.
do it, but it's like, that feels weird, right? So maybe in this process, can you help us kind of get comfortable with that? Get comfortable with the fact of having pictures of ourselves in our own social media feed,
Yeah.
and why that's so important for branding, as well as any other ideas you have around kind of best practices for creating content.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, we talked about like people are buying you, right? They're buying the product and service secondary, but they're buying you, and so they have to connect with the person. Let's be frank. When I started taking photos, I wasn't comfortable like everyone else. I think what changed for me, and the two things that really stood out was I connected it to this is a part of my goals. You know what I mean? Like in it, like social media is a necessary evil. And then the competitive side within me was like, hey, I realized that just like you said, people really find that this is a daunting task to get on your phone and talk and to sit down and have people take photos of yourself. And everyone wants to do it, but they really find it like, oh, I can't do it. And for me, it's like, okay, we talk about market. That's a differentiator. Like if I can lean into that discomfort and get to where I am comfortable, and I know 98% of the people can't do it, then that is one of the ways that, you know what I mean, that I'm able to do it. And it's just like any other muscle, you know what I mean? Like you do it enough and then it becomes more comfortable and then you get better at it. And it's just like public speaking, anyone that like used to hate public speaking, you just have to lean into it long enough. I think she's absolutely correct. Like you are, the star of your own reality TV show, whatever that looks like for you. And so for me, it's all about generating more content. But again, going back to the just being intentional, it's like so many people spend all this money and they will get a photo, or they're doing the same thing. Realtors, they'll do the same, drone shot, and they'll come through the front door and they'll have the music. You've seen the videos,
All day
and it's
long.
like all day long. And I'm like, if I see another drone aerial shot and a pan of the living room and a realtor's open, I can't do it. And so it's like, how do you actually create more content and be more strategic about when I am doing that drone shot? How do I turn it into a photo shoot too, right? How do I go live and actually give insight on the house? And then as, real estate or anything else, you aren't selling. Like you can't dictate when someone wants to buy, but you can become the resource when they are ready to buy. And so just like your show, I think the more you can help, the more you can, leverage your expertise and give people what they want to hear versus what you think versus what you want to tell them. then when they're ready to make a buying decision, they're going to come to you. So I would say just intentionality, maximizing your opportunities when you are creating content. Don't just get one piece, get 20 pieces. And then when you're distributing it, how do you distribute it through all these different networks? Because there's so much noise. How do I get more content how do I get more bang for my buck? How do I take, a video and make a clip and make a video and put it on YouTube and take a photo? You know what I mean? Like there's all these different nuances where I take, instead of one piece, I now have 20 pieces and I have more opportunity to show up.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You're right. And it's so interesting how we make buying decisions based on the fact, even in real estate, even as big of a purchase as that is, we make a buying decision based on, I have a need. And in the next 24 to 48, maybe 72 hours, I'm examining who do I know and who do I think could best service here, right? I mean, it's that window of time is pretty small from when people decide, okay, we're going to make a move to we're like, who should we use? That window is not huge typically. Like statistically, that's what it shows. Yeah. And so you have to be present at that time. And the reality is, if you're a stealth agent and the only thing that's out on social media is pictures of houses, you're not memorable. The houses you're not. They forget about who is behind those houses. And what you said, I think, was a nugget, which was taking every like house photo shoot and turn it into a personal photo shoot. Like what a brilliant idea. Cause like a few people are, maybe one person's going to end up buying that house, but hundreds of thousands of people can buy you and your services.
Absolutely. And you can showcase your expertise. You know what I mean? You can give them, nuggets so that when they come to your page, when they're looking in that 24 to 72-hour window, have a library of content as a real estate expert, as a lifestyle expert, as opposed to a library of photos that you may or may not have sold.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's a huge difference.
And people tend to be attracted to people over things, right? I mean, when the stories of people's lives are more memorable, right? They'll stick in people's brains longer. Tip for when you're out and about and you have a photo opportunity, what do you do to get a picture? Because I mean, it's obvious when you're a real estate agent and you've got a photographer in the house, it's like, hey, include me in this one, include a few more, right? What do you do? Like, how do you get these pictures where you're sitting like stylish, sitting on a bench in downtown Portland? Like, who's doing that?
I mean, for me, I have a photographer, right? So I have people, or if I'm doing a video shoot, I have a team. I think the difference between maybe myself and then I think the more I'm doing it, I'm always cognizant of like, okay, this can be an opportunity. But I think how people miss, and especially like real estate or any sales, I actually strategize before going to the event. Okay. Right. So when I'm showing up to a networking event or I'm showing up someplace, before I get there, I'm like, okay, I want to do a 15-second Instagram video. I want to take a photo with the people that invited me. I want to do this. I'm going to get, a photo of the background. And so I'm done because I don't want to be on my phone either. I want to be able to engage and shake hands and kiss babies like we all do. But by me being strategic about it, I'm able to get, again, 10 pieces of content before. And, it's so common now. People take a photo of you. What they don't want is when you aren't used to being, where it's just like out of the blue and then they're like trying to scramble to take a photo. But people take photos. It's commonplace now. Yeah. If you know what you want and you be like, hey, I need a photo here, they'll take it. What I don't like is when people just take one photo when they could just take four really quick. But that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I think I have a team, but even when you don't have a team, go into the event or go into the activity knowing what you need. And then even when you do that, that leaves you open to those random, events where it's like, oh, this is really cool. This lighting is here today. I'm going to get this too, in addition to these 8 pieces that I was already going to get. And then it doesn't take that away.
And you hand people your phone and you say, hey, take a quick picture of this real quick. Hey, exactly. I need a picture of this. Yeah. Snap one for me and shoot it to me. Like, I mean, is that the thing you use?
That's what I use. And a lot of times for me, if I'm out and about, like I will do a selfie video walking into the event. Like I'm known for talking to my camera. And I think, again, going back to authenticity and people buying people, that's real. Yeah. I think one thing that I learned from doing live television is you just have to keep going. So when you stumble, people can relate to that because they know that happens, right? With me talking to a camera, maybe I'm looking whatever, or I'm not looking great, or for me, I get the most requests when I'm singing in the car. Like real life activities, that's what people relate to. So it's not always this perfect, I need to do this. And I think that's what you learn. When you become more comfortable, you realize it doesn't have to be perfect. Contrarily, the less perfect it is, the more authentic and the more way it resonates more to people. So I think there's a give and take between, you have those stage shoots, but then you have those just random, hey, I'm here today. These are my thoughts. I'm going to this event. I'm about to meet Justin. You know what I mean? Like whatever. And you do it.
I came into this conversation thinking we were going to be talking about branding from simply a wardrobe standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Not solely. I knew there was some additional brand expertise. I had no idea the depth of brand, and I knew you're an expert, but I'm enamored with how much you know about this, and I'm really interested in getting more and more real estate agents, the ones that are really serious about their brand, that realize the future of well-paid real estate agents includes them having a powerful brand. Period. Because the giant tech portals like Zillow, Redfin, others, they are relentless at getting between you and your customer. And if you're not very intentional about staying in front of your customer, you will lose. Like, that's just the end of the game. And so people need to learn more about you. They need to follow you, and they need to work with you. How do people do that? Brandon, tell us a little bit more about what it looks like to work with Brandon Gaston.
Yeah, so for me, so I launched this branding agency. Again, for me, it's all about narrative. It's all about storytelling. It's all about, like I said, the depths of branding. So wardrobe was the beginning. So now I do webinars. I spoke at conferences, but now I do webinars. I do one-on-one coaching for individuals. That's also like luxury branding and social media branding. And then there's, collaborate too. And I've also worked with like lifestyle brands. And so they can find me on, I'm everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I need to do more Snapchat, but I haven't dove into that, although I have done a couple of videos. And then, of course, my website, which you can find all that on all my pages. So I'm relatively heavy in all platforms. I'm pretty consistent. I'm one of those people, like, I'm not a theorist. Everything I talk about is I've experienced it myself or have done it firsthand. And so a lot of this stuff that I'm saying, it's like, okay, I've realized this in my own professional life, and I've gained this, exposure or won these accolades or got these clients, and it's worked for me. And my biggest thing was, how do I strip it away from my particular characteristics and make it so anyone can use it? And that's why I kind of created a system where anyone, based upon their strengths and weaknesses, can create their own brand.
Man, powerful stuff. So appreciative of you. Let's end with the signature question, Brandon. And that is, you're a big thinker, right? That's why you're on the Think Bigger Real Estate Show today. What does a guy like you do to continue to be a big thinker, to continue to expand your possibilities? What does that look like?
For me, man, it's two things. They work hand in hand. Constant education. I'm a huge reader. I read all the time, read books. And I think the more, and very intentional, like I said, business books, sales books, content books, etc. And so I think that exposes me to having a grander mindset, right? I'm very big on having a growth mindset. So I think reading a lot, educating myself, and then maintaining a growth mindset, whereas I'm not going to limit myself. I don't want to create my own ceilings, right? I want to think limitless. So I think those two things. And of course, I think within that, those conversations, your circle is obviously of the utmost importance. Who you hang around. And I think all those connect. They all kind of intertwine as far as, reading, educating yourself, thinking big, and then literally, no pun intended, thinking big, and then surrounding yourself with other big thinkers. And so I think that's the combination for me.
I love it, man. What a great answer. That wasn't even staged, the fact that you said that so well.
Yeah, I promise. It just came out.
I love it. That's the intent. All right, man. It's been such a pleasure. I want to thank you so much for everything you shared here today. Again, if you have not yet followed Brandon, not learning from him or not working with him, now's the time. It's not too late to really realign your brand with your ideal customer, your ideal avatar, and help identify who that is. Be sure that person is aligned with your long-term legacy. So this has been so fun. I would encourage everybody that's listening here today, again, to subscribe to whatever platform you're listening to right now. Share this episode out. Your realtor friends need to learn about this guy. So please, let's not keep him a secret. Pretty hard to do that. He's all over the place. But lastly, my final request of everybody listening today are 3 simple words, and they are: go think bigger. Brandon, thanks so much, my friend. Such a pleasure. This has been a blast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You bet.